stop doing things for your boyfriend, okay? This is a lesson I learned a little bit too late, and I want to share my perspective here. So I've been with my husband for 18 years now, but we met in high school. So we were very, very young when we met. And I stepped into this role very early on in our relationship where I would just do things for him to make his life easier or just to like make my life easier, right? And for example, in high school, that looked like me helping him with his homework or me helping write a paper or me just writing the paper, because I knew that if I did that, it would make his life easier and it would also mean we had more time to hang out. And so I would do those things. But then that bled into our 20s where I would do things like remind him to renew his car registration. Like, hey, your car needs to be registered. Hey, don't forget. And then ultimately I would just do it because I'm like, okay, well, we need the car registered. I don't want to get pulled over. So here's your registration, right? And I would start to do these things. And what happened was I essentially slipped into the role that his mom used to fill, right? Like that's what a mom does. That's what I do for my kids. I'm like, hey, get your shoes on. Hey, don't forget your homework. Like, hey, let me help you with this because I'm their mother, right? But as a teenage girl and a woman in my 20s, I just kind of like slid into that role. And it set this really bad precedent. It showed him that if he didn't do something, I ultimately would. And it really didn't cause any issues in our teens or our 20s. But when we had kids, let me tell you, the resentment built up. I couldn't stand him for a couple years because I felt so frustrated that I had become the default for everything, not just for him, but also for our kids, right? It set this really bad standard and it never allowed him to step into a role of owning his own shit, right? Doing his own stuff. And I think it's something that often happens to women when they date men, especially in their 20s, where these men have gone from living in their mom's house, living in a college dorm, to living on their own maybe, and then having this girlfriend who's like, okay, well, I don't want you to like, you know, fall off the face of the earth and not have a car to drive, so let me step in and help you do these things. But I can't tell you how many women I know now who are married to men and they have to remind them to renew their license. They have to remind them to get a card for their mom for Mother's Day. Like, right, I don't want that. I don't have that anymore. Thank God I was able to, you know, essentially stop all of that with my partner. But it is something that happens like really subtly when you start dating, where you like do these things to make their lives easier, and then it becomes an expectation, and then you learn to resent your partner and they learn that they don't have to do anything. And so it's incredibly important. It's like one of my like top pieces of advice. I have a few, but this is one of my top pieces of advice, which is just stop doing things for your boyfriend that he can do for himself. Don't do things for your boyfriend that he can do for himself, right? It is okay to do acts of kindness. It is okay to do kind things for your partner. It's okay to make their life easier, but don't take on everything for them that they can do for themselves, because ultimately it was never meant to be your job, right? No one person should carry that load for two people. There's two people for a reason. And so they can renew their registration. They can do their own homework. They can, you know, do whatever they need to do on their own, make their own doctor's appointments. Like, you don't have to do those things for them. Let them do those things, because if you don't, and you decide to have kids with this person, I can tell you it will lead to resentment when you are doing this, not only for your children as a mother, but for your husband as his partner, but acting like his mother.